Okay, so some of you have been asking me how I make my sourdough bread. So the recipe I use is Lazy Sourdough Bread by Ben Starr, and you can actually watch his YouTube and probably get a better idea of how to do it than I can. But I'm going to try to make this simple and easy as I can to do this. First, I do love to use a scale because it's more precise on the measurements since the recipe calls for grams. So this makes it a lot easier to use, and I just get my scale off Amazon, and if you get one, get a waterproof one because I did not have one and it stopped working. So what you do is there's a tar and there is a unit on here. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to push unit, which is going to bring you to the grams part on here. And once you get to that, then you're going to push tar, which brings it back to 0, and put your bowl on it, and then you just got to push tar on again. And so the first thing I'm going to add is my starter. And I keep my starter in my fridge, and you can go ahead and take it right out of the fridge and take some out and use it. You don't have to have it room temperature, at least I find that it works just fine. And then after we get this process done, I'm going to teach you how to feed your starter so that you always have starter in your fridge. So this recipe calls for 100 grams of starter. So I'm going to put that in there. This one is almost going to take it all. I have a couple of starters in my fridge just in case I mess up on something. Okay, I have 98. Okay, I'll just add one more little dab here. And I think that if you're doing a measuring cup, that's a half a cup of starter. So I'm just going to go ahead and set that aside. Then I'm going to add, and I got it pre-measured already, about 8 ounces of water. So I'm going to pour that into there. And then I'm going to go ahead and take it off the scale a minute, and I'm going to stir this up together so that it gets kind of liquidy looking. It doesn't take a lot to do that. I'm going to place it back on the scale, push tar again, and then I'm going to add 8 grams of salt, and I like using pink salt. It's just better for you. So we're going to add 8 grams of salt. Okay, there, looks good. Then after you do that, you're going to add, it says, I think I'd have this memorized by now, 394 grams of flour. So I got all that measured out too. So that's about 3 cups of flour. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that in there, and since I already had it measured, I can take it off. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and stir this up until it gets kind of shredded looking. And I think you can kind of see it, right? See what it looks like here, and I'm scraping the sides off and getting all the flour off of there. And then it kind of, you want to pick it up off the bottom too a little bit. So once you've got that, you've got it kind of shredded. You do that like for 30 seconds, sort of. Then I just take my hands and I'm just going to kind of knead it a little bit here, like that. Can you see that? Just so that it gets, and it is a little bit sticky. Okay, then it's kind of going to look like this. So you're going to leave this on your counter covered for about anywhere from 6 to 12 hours. It just depends on the temperature of your house, and if you got your air conditioner running like I do, it might take a little bit longer. So I'm just going to leave this in here. You can put it in a fresh bowl too if you want. It's okay if you're using the same bowl. You don't have to. But when I put it in the fridge, when I get to that part, I put it in something different. So since this is going to take 6 to 12 hours, I would say 6 to 8 more. What I do, which is different than Ben Starr recipe, is every 2 hours I go in and I fold it into each other about 6 to 8 times, going around the dough and then just pressing it in together. And then I'll have it covered, set it on the counter, go back in another 2 hours, and then repeat the process and do that until it's basically almost doubled. And then I'll tell you later and show you later what to do with that. So I'm going to put this aside. Don't forget to put a cover on it. And I'm going to show you now what to do with your starter, because you want to keep a starter in the fridge at all the time. Otherwise you have to start from scratch, and I had to do that once. So I'm going to take, let me see if I can get this back. I'm going to take my container, a new container, and I'm going to put it back to 0. And this is some of my leftover starter that I had from what I just took out to make the bread. So I'm going to measure out 50 grams, which is 1/4 of a cup of starter. Put that in there. Okay, I got 49, that'll do. I gotta get some water. Then I'm gonna add 50 gram, hit tar again, and then again, 1/4 of a cup of water, so you go equal amounts all the time. Okay, I'm a little bit over, but that's okay. Then I'm gonna go ahead and add 50 grams of flour to it. So push tar again to get it back to 0. And I need a little bit more in there. Okay, so 50 grams. Okay, once you got that done, you're just gonna stir this up until it gets blended really well. And you like to scrape the sides to get it all together in here, so it just kind of, you know, looks like that. And yes, get the sides scraped down. Okay, you can go ahead and use your finger. So what happens is this becomes your own sourdough, because it like takes on everything in your house and becomes your own sourdough. And Ben Starr has a thing on it too, on how to start a starter from scratch and how to feed it. So once I have this, I'm going to put the lid on it, and I'm just going to set it on the counter, and I'll take a marker and I'll mark where it is, and then once it doubles, because it'll go probably about up to there, then I can go ahead and stick it in the fridge. Or if you want to do a loaf of bread, sourdough bread, and you did this in the morning, by noon or whatever, you could go ahead and do the process that we just did. You can go ahead and take the starter out here that is already doubled, but don't forget to feed what is in there. So that's important. Okay, so I'm going to stop this one right now till we get to the next step. Okay, so I'm just going to do a little piece here on, after a couple of hours of raising, you can kind of see it a little bit. And this is what I'm talking about when I say you just stick your hand in here, and it might be a little bit sticky, and you're just going to fold it over like this. And you can go ahead and just grab it from the side, and then just, yeah, fold it over like that. And then you just cover it again. And I got, they're like little shower caps, but they're not. But anyway, you just cover it back up again, and then just wait another couple hours and then go do the same thing. So this is probably my second time of doing this. And I wanted to show you my starter. So what I did is I put a rubber band around it so you can see how much it's already grown from then. Okay, so we're on to the next part. And first I want to tell you the flour, and see, I wear it well too, that you use is King Author's unbleached all-purpose flour. And you can use other unbleached flours too. This is just kind of my favorite, and what I've seen other people do too. They like using this flour. So what you're going to do now is you're going to take your dough, and you're going to take it out and plop it onto the counter. So I lightly floured my counter, and I have one of these trusty little things here that I'm going to go ahead and scrape the dough out of the pan. So hopefully you can see this. I may have to move this back a little bit. So now what you're going to do is you're going to take this and you're going to kind of scrunch it under like this, and then you're just going to kind of pull it toward you till it gets like kind of a nice round top to it. If you do too much, you'll get an air bubble in there, and I've done that too. So I just kind of circle it around and yeah, till I get a nice round thing. And I think I got kind of a bubble on the top, I do. But I think that's okay. I think you can have that. Then you're gonna take one of these, I think it's called a bananette. I can't say the word for it. Anyway, I floured this too, and I think I'm gonna throw a little bit of more flour on there. You can use like a regular bowl too. That's kind of, you know, deeper, and just spray some Pam in it, and then you can put your dough in there to rise too. Or you could even just use a loaf pan and put your dough in here too. So now I'm going to take this dough that I have, and I'm going to show you a minute. There are some bubbles on it a little bit, so I'm going to squish that. I guess it doesn't matter. And I'm going to plop it upside down into here. And then sometimes if there's a little bit of a hole in here, you just squish it like this. So this is what it will look like. And then I'm going to cover this, and I'm going to put it in the fridge till tomorrow morning. I also read if you leave it in the fridge maybe 2 nights, so 24, 48 hours, the longer you leave it in the fridge, the sour it tastes. That's what I've heard. So I have another one going, so I'm going to try the 48 hours with that one. But with this one, because I'm doing this video, I'm going to go ahead and leave this in the fridge for tonight, and then we'll continue this video tomorrow. We'll bake it. Okay, so I'm going to just show you one more thing here. So I got my second little one here, and I'm going to do it a little bit oblong in here. And I'm going to go ahead and put it in this one, and then just set it in there, and then I'll cover this one too. And we'll see how this one turns out. And we'll continue tomorrow.